just for the audience, this happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I was had this workout. It had some weightlifting in it, and it also had 75 thrusters for time. Now, if anybody has done CrossFit, you look at this, you just think, you get nauseous just thinking about it. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to do this, whatever. And I was not thrilled about this segment of the workout, but I said, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to get into the workout. It'll be fine. And then I was doing the squats, and all through the different segments of doing the squats and some of the other things, I had push presses, I think that day too. I was trying to figure out a way to not do the 75 thrusters for time. I was, am I running out of time? Or maybe the squats have left me unable to do this. And I knew in my head I was making excuses. And so finally I got a little angry with myself, and I said, will you just shut up and just do it? Just do it and see what happens. And so I said, all right, but I'm going to give myself permission to scale. And so I went a little lighter on the dumbbells than I normally would have. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to give myself permission to scale. And so I grabbed the dumbbells and I did the 75 thrusters for time, and I didn't die afterwards. And my psyche was saying that should have been harder. You should have been curled up on the floor at the end. And because you weren't, you wussed out. You picked too light of a weight, and WTF, how could you let this get in your head? This is what I was saying to myself. How could you let this get in your head to pick dumbbells that were so damn light that you breezed through this in under 5 minutes? And I was, it was like my psyche was scolding me for doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when I related it to you in the sheet, it was like, I think I've gone backwards today. And so I figured I would now pass the baton to you for this coaching segment to help me work through this seemingly going backwards in the work that I thought I had done and accomplished through our time together. So what the heck happened?
What the heck happened? So to answer that and to get to the coaching, to give a really good example of this as we simplify first is, what's the problem? Why is it a problem that it happened? You tell me.
Well, I felt like it was a problem because I was upset that I let it get in my head. I knew I was picking dumbbells that were probably lighter than I should have gone, and I knew it was getting in my head. And I didn't like the fact that my head got the best of me in a workout.
Okay. So, and there's a lot of ways that go coaching this type of capacity. And I think it's for our audience, it's a little newer to it. I'll also explain my process and kind of hearing what Carla's talking about, and then, where we go from there. Is that I still want to stay on that. It was a problem that you got in your head, and let's zero in on that. Is, what does that actually mean? How did you get in your head? And when? What did that look like?
Well, getting in my head meant that all through the workout, I was thinking about it. I was thinking about ways I was going to not do it. Well, maybe I'll just do 75 thrusters separately in its own workout. And the fear of how I would perform on that 75 thrusters, I didn't fear that I was really going to die, or injure myself. I think I feared the failure from it, or I feared that, well, if I really suck at this, that must mean I am declining in my physical abilities. I think that's what was getting in my head. All that fear was making me select dumbbells that were too light for me.
Right.
It was hindering my progress. It was hindering me.
Right. So much like we talked about in the beginning of the call, there was a deeper meaning associated to this fear. And to this workout, just this workout. It's kind of like we talked about with the pain. There's pain, there's 75 thrusters written on a sheet in front of me. What am I making it mean? And so you're saying that this workout in particular was about relating to the result to the meaning of that you were declining again.
Mm.
And then with that fear, it kind of seemed like it became a bit of a manipulation of, how do I not feel this way? How do I do this workout so I don't feel this way? So what Carla really did for everyone watching was trying to solve for her own emotions about how she feels about declining. She chose to use this workout to expose this fear and put the pressure on it and how she was going to do, which also wasn't an expectation established, like what is failing, what is succeeding beforehand. So your brain is just like, now it's just searching for evidence for how bad you're going to do and that you're declining. And so that was kind of already decided, right, before the workout, if that makes sense. So for whatever reason she chose this, what we're going to sort through now is just understanding why this workout, why this day do you think? And then I also phrase it, you chose. I want to put it as you choose, because there's plenty of other days you don't choose. So why today? Why 75 thrusters? Go for it.
I think what I remembered about that week, I was going through a lot of stuff that week. I wasn't sleeping great. I was stressed. And I was feeling vulnerable, physically vulnerable, because I was experiencing some things. I had a migraine with an aura for the first time in 20 years that week. And probably hormone fluctuations, things hit you out of the blue. You don't even know what they are. And I was kind of scared by this. And so that combined with other stuff, I was feeling very physically vulnerable. So that it's almost like when your mortality gets put in front of you, you have like, you almost get into a car accident. All of a sudden now, oh my God, I'm afraid to walk across the street. So I was feeling vulnerable to begin with. And I think that made me more susceptible to these thoughts on this particular day.
And so just digging into that a little bit, feeling physically vulnerable because of this migraine. So you guys notice that, oh, look, it actually has nothing to do with the 75 thrusters. It has to do with things that we were thinking beforehand about our body, about the migraine. And that's where I would steer the coaching to acknowledging these thoughts about what you were thinking when you had a headache. And also that feeling physically vulnerable is actually not a feeling, but that's more of a thought that you're having about things happening in your body. Mm-hmm. So what does that even mean? Is that you had a headache and you were reading that as, well, now I'm just scared to move at all. Right?
Right. I mean, I was having some weird visual changes with it. I actually was like, do I take myself to the emergency room or not? I was in the middle of seeing patients during the day over Zoom. And my visual fields were getting disrupted by these flashing lights. I had not experienced this in many, many, many years. And I was like, am I having a stroke? And when you're a physician and you studied all these things, you think you've had everything you've studied. And so it doesn't help when you do what I do for a living. But seriously, I almost took myself to the emergency room. I was like, if this gets worse, if I actually can't see, I'm going to have to go, because what if I'm having a stroke? So I had dealt with that earlier in the week. And then after the headache came, after that, I'm like, I had the visual changes and I had a headache. Oh my God, I had a migraine. It then revealed itself, and I knew what it was, and I knew I wasn't dying, and I knew I wasn't having a stroke. I knew that, oh my God, this is a migraine, and it's probably due to hormones. And so I got through it, but still, it shook me up a little bit on this particular day. So then I was kind of very, realizing it's okay. I'm not the immortal soul that I thought I was a week ago. I have this body that may, play tricks on me from time to time. And it was just kind of a reality slap that I'm not immortal,
Yeah. And I also want to acknowledge greatly to who we're talking to is, let's also come from the perspective here of, well, what if this fear is wanted? You know, things are happening in your body. And so the work that we do is not to say, well, you know, feel differently about that because you want to do better in your workout. Actually, no, let's question that this fear could be helpful because something is happening with your body that you then went and did the work to understand. Once again, that understand, accept process that I was talking about is, would you want that? Would you want to, which would you want more, to pay attention to what's happening in your body and kind of go through that fear and process and then find out it's a migraine, or be unstoppable at 75 thrusters and then completely ignore your migraine or something that could be happening in your body that you do take to a doctor that has nothing to do with your thoughts, but actually is happening in your body that you do need to know about, right?
At least if I had the stroke, I would have known I kicked ass on the 75 thrusters.
And that actually is just the point in question of asking ourselves what we really want in our health and fitness. And so really, let's look back on the week and tell me if you would have done it at all any differently, the way it went, and then how that could have gone.
If I could have, if it, like knowing what I know now, like what everything was, and that, okay, I'm okay. Is that what you're saying? If I knew then what I know now, how would I do it differently?
No, more like do the week over again. Honestly, would you change anything? You still don't know.
I think I still don't know. Maybe I would have gotten a little bit more rest. Maybe I wouldn't have been so hard on myself. I probably, maybe I wouldn't have been so hard on myself.
And why is that?
Because what I'm experiencing, what many women are experiencing right now, is a normal physiologic process, even though it doesn't feel normal, even though sometimes you think or swear you're dying. It is a normal thing. And my body wasn't betraying me that day, that I was having the migraine. It was just a consequence of whatever was happening in my physiology. And I think I would have, I could have been kinder to myself leading into that workout. And maybe if I would have had a different perspective on the workout. I think I would have celebrated the fact that I did 75 thrusters, even with light dumbbells in under 5 minutes, rather than saying you wussed out.
So it's interesting you say that, because I would actually flip it on its head a bit and say, don't you think that also if you did do 75 thrusters under 5 minutes with really lightweight, wouldn't you also say that's possibly being kinder to yourself?
Yeah, I guess it would be. Yeah, because I gave myself permission to scale.
And so the interesting part looking back on it is, and what I think actually happened is, I think you were battling with, I think you had two conflicting ideas of taking care of human Carla and pushing human athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And you were actually struggling with which to be that day. I think
that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Absolutely.
Good. Looking back on it, though, your actions tell me you didn't push further than I think you were actually willing to push. And so, like, does deconstructing it kind of bring out not what you were really thinking, but kind of the thoughts behind the fear, behind the ego, behind the resistance a little bit?
Yeah, I think definitely that the ego also falls into play there as well. And I think it was that instead of me celebrating, you were kinder to yourself and you did great with the light dumbbells that you did. Instead of celebrating that, I was saying, you wussed out. And if I was being kind to myself on one hand, but mentally I wasn't being as kind to myself as I should have been.
Yeah, and so if we're going by the model that I was discussing in this whole video of thoughts, feelings, and actions, I actually want to point out that you, through your actions, you were actually thinking to, I don't want to say be kinder, but you had some thought that I don't know, only you can really tell me and us to go lighter for some
Mhm.
reason, you
Mhm.
know? Um, and yes, the judgment poured over it and was a little louder as a little more practiced in the situation, but you still proved that what you were thinking was in some kind of support to align with where your body was really feeling. You weren't
Mhm.
sure about your headache, like, so I just want to highlight that I think you did what you really wanted to do, and then our brains always have something to say about it.
Yeah,
Does
exactly.
that make sense?
It totally makes sense. It totally makes sense, which and that's a really good place to settle out with this is like, okay, there were these two conflicting things, but at the end of the day, I did choose to be good to myself, even though the mind had to squawk about it a little bit.
Mm.
At the end of the day, I was where I needed to be. Um,
And then before we just wrap up there, because I know we've done a lot of coaching and talking, I think we got a little bit over. So thank you for that time. But so this is where I would say, and I wouldn't leave her with just, okay, this just happened, move on, is actually ask the question, how do I want to think and feel if and when this comes up again? And by this, I mean a physical ailment, something I am afraid of. How do I want to treat myself? And then we would come back to this situation and say, remember those 75 thrusters?
mhm.
Like what does Carla, how does Carla want to follow through with this now? How does she want to think and feel this week if something happens that creates this physical stressor that she's not sure of yet, or
Mhm.
she's hasn't wrapped her head around yet, but that she still wants to work out? Like,
Mhm.
so say it's 75, let's say it's 75 push-ups next week or 75 push presses, and you felt a little twinge in your shoulder on Monday, and Wednesday you have that workout. How do you want to show up that day with
Well,
this workout?
I think we make the plan, if I just an awareness of what I'm experiencing during the week
Mm,
and acknowledgement and acceptance of what I've experienced during the week and use that information to make a plan
mm,
and to be okay with whatever happens and to maybe, like you said before, write down any fears I might have in anticipation of this, get it out there,
mhm,
and make a plan for whatever may happen. And that plan is a thoughtful plan, it's a compassionate plan, and it's one that is productive and serving the purpose of getting fitter on that particular day.
mm.
So awareness, acceptance, and anticipation, I think, are probably what I would do if the situation rose again.
Yeah, yeah, I think, and well put. And in comparison from the situation you just described, if and when the situation comes up again, I would also insert the expectation of that squawking comes again, is that
Mhm.
it doesn't just erase as you've experienced, but the management tools around it are, oh, it's happening again. I've been through this before.
Yeah.
I hear you. You want to really come down on me, Carla, to Carla,
Mhm.
about how I feel this week. But I got your number. I understand. You just want to do well. This is how we're going to do it today, which I've seen you do before in your sheets. So also that expectation that that bullshit in your head comes back again, and
Yeah,
you
it's a
just get better at
process.
dealing with it. Yeah. Yep.
That's right. It's a
Well done.
process. Well, Erika, this was absolutely phenomenal. Thank you for taking the time to do the coaching and to do this interview. I'm sure this will be so helpful for the people listening. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm again honored to be here. Appreciate you asking me and getting to share my journey with all these wonderful women.